Okay, and we are live. Welcome to a new episode of All Things Xbox Podcast. Once again, I have Logan with me. Logan, how you doing?
Doing pretty good. I'm starting to wonder if I should go into a business of buying IPs from Square.
Yeah, you know what? Normally we have about 12 topics per show, and 12 or 15, and normally we have some Activision stuff in there. And happily this week, the Activision stuff is down to a minimum, and basically just a bunch of new game talk and some rumors about upcoming Xbox games. But have you been playing anything recently?
Yes, I've been doing Hi-Fi Rush, which is absolutely incredible. I know everybody and their dog is playing it right now, which they should be. But if for some reason you're one of the five who haven't, get on it. It's incredible. Seriously, it's one of my new favorite IPs of the last two generations. It's amazing. And the Tomb Raider expansion came out for Power Wash today, and I've been playing that, and it's more content for a game I love. It's been a good day, Jamie.
Yeah, I mean, we've probably had more gaming news in the past week than we've had in the past like 4 or 5 months. So it's good to have some good stuff going on. I've mainly been playing that in Dead Space, which we'll talk about in a bit. But I want to jump into GoldenEye first because that is an ancient game. I used to play it on the GameCube. Oh, not the GameCube, the Nintendo 64. It was the second best-selling game on the console, and it was a movie title. Nobody expected that at the time, and it's like 97 on Metacritic. It's like super high. And anyway, after months of rumors and all this stuff, like I even have a podcast where we literally talk about this last year, and now it's finally out. And honestly, it's pure nostalgia. It's 4K, 60 frames, all that stuff. It still looks like a Nintendo 64 game. Don't get me wrong, but it's very cool that you can go back and play these types of games because there's generations of kids that have never played GoldenEye, and now they'll finally get to understand what we've been all yapping on about for years. And even though it has aged a lot, it's still been fun to play. I will say this. A lot of people aren't really aware of the situation with GoldenEye, even though it's out. So basically, if you have it on, Nintendo Switch and your Nintendo Online account or whatever it's called, you can play it there. And on Xbox, it's included in Game Pass. Or if you have Rare Replay and you own it, you get a copy of GoldenEye. Pretty cool, right? The thing that most people don't know is that you can't actually buy it. It's not in the store or anything like that. So the only way you can play it is via Game Pass or the Nintendo thing, or if you happen to own Rare Replay. It probably has something to do with the licensing agreement between Activision and MGM and Nintendo. The license issues with that game is all over the place, so I can't really blame it. But yeah, that's pretty much the entire situation with GoldenEye. I will say this, given the fact that it is an updated port, kind of, and it's a licensed title. I think Microsoft could use the BC team and upgrade that game a lot because there's modders that have came out recently and showed the game with full widescreen support for cutscenes, 8K even on PC and that. And yeah, I think that this might not be the end of GoldenEye on Xbox. We could be seeing increased support for it and all that stuff with modern features. But yeah, you can't buy it. That's mainly what I want to get out there. Logan, have you played it at all? And what's your thought on the whole GoldenEye situation?
Yeah, I've actually been playing it. I forgot to mention it as one of the games I've been playing, but um, I've played it on both cloud and native on the console. The cloud on it has been kind of latenty and kind of laggy and a little less than fluid, on my experience anyway. The console version has been good, but man, it does make me glad for modern FPS controls.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder how on earth I used that three-legged abomination, N64 controller back in the day on this thing. But it's really fun, and it makes me feel like a kid again playing it because I grew up with that game, having friends over, weekend, play GoldenEye, whatever. But it hasn't aged gracefully. I think they could do better with it, frankly. I don't want to sound rude and say it's bare bones kind of port, but it feels like they could have done more. But I'm just glad we get to play it. I do think the whole situation about not being able to buy it is a buzzkill, but luckily, there's a little life hack. Rare Replay goes on sale a lot.
Yep.
Almost every time there's a major Xbox sale, Rare Replay will get knocked down to like 7.29, 7 something like that. And you can buy it and you get 30 something games, really good ones, a bunch X enhanced and FPS boosted for Series X as well. And you get own GoldenEye now. So to me, you can get it for like $7. Just wait down the line for Rare Replay to go on sale so you can have it. It's kind of like one of those where you know the game Too Human, the whole legal thing with that.
Oh, yeah.
Where they couldn't technically sell it, but they allow you to get it for free on Xbox. My guess is it's something licensee with this game, like you said. And frankly, I'm just glad we can have it and play it again. I wish it was better formatted and that we could have online multiplayer, but it is what it is, and I'm thankful we get to play it.
Yeah, I mean, when you say it's bare bones, the thing is that version of GoldenEye that we have on Xbox Series X and S, and I think it's obviously on Xbox One consoles as well. That isn't actually the remaster that they made on 360. It's a completely different version, apparently. So there is a better version of GoldenEye. It's just unfortunately we can't play it due to all the licensing issues, which is a kind of a shame because if you go on YouTube, you can see that in motion, and it looks a lot better. And as someone that used to play GoldenEye back in the day, who's someone that plays Perfect Dark now and then, muscle memory does kick in, and modern shooters definitely play better. But it's pretty cool to have access to the game still because, GoldenEye, that was lost to time. The only way to play that game was on PC, and now it has a quote-unquote official release, but like you were saying, Rare Replay is on sale all the time. Like, I saw it on sale a few weeks ago for about £5, which is nothing, and I'd say with all the games you get, it's well worth the price of admission. But yeah, GoldenEye, it's out. I highly recommend people try it, even though it has aged quite a bit. Anyway, we'll move on. I was going to save this till later in the show because I like to bash Square a lot because they deserve it, Actually, I'll go over something else quick. So Age of Empires 2, bit of a change. Definitive Edition is now out on Xbox. It's the first major RTS on console in, 5-6 years? The last one was Halo Wars 2. Well, it's out now. It went live at 5 p.m. UK time. It has controller support, or if you want, you can plug a keyboard and mouse into it. The funny thing is, in the Xbox store, it's been listed as about 300 megabytes for the past few weeks, and people have been wondering, is that the size of the game? No, as soon as the game went live, I got a 24 gigabyte update. But it's out now, and it's kind of a big deal, because even though it is the definitive edition of an older RTS game, we don't actually have RTS games on the regular on console, and it's a big deal because they've done a lot of work for this. Again, controller support for an RTS in this size, it's a big deal. We're going to be getting Age of Empires 4 later in the year, which is a beautiful game. And yeah, I highly recommend people download that later. Logan, are you looking forward to playing Age of Empires, or are you not really into RTS games?
I'm 100% down for it. I've been one of those banging the drum for more RTS to come to Xbox, and so I'm definitely jumping in. I'm glad it's here. I'm glad 4 is coming. Hopefully, maybe 3 will eventually, or Age of Mythology once they fully resurrect it. I hope that comes down the road. And then, little toss aside to Activision Blizzard, like, maybe StarCraft, Warcraft someday if that deal ever gets done. Like, I want more RTS. I know it's a niche genre, but it just, something about them, it feels really good to play every once in a while.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always up for like different genres coming to Xbox, but like, back in the early 2000s when I played on everything, Xbox, GameCube, PlayStation, Game Boy, I played on PC, mainly for RTS games. And then when the 360 came out, like, that's where I pretty much games 99% of the time. And I was always thirsty for RTS games, but we didn't really get many on the 360. We got the Lord of the Rings Battle for Middle-earth games. We got Halo Wars, Command and Conquer, Supreme Commander 2. I think we got the first one as well. But, actually, compared to last generation, we actually got a lot in the 360. But, yeah, it's good to see we're getting more. We're also getting Company of Heroes next month as well. So, cool times. You know what? I think it's time we bash Square a bit. So it just came out today that Amazon Game Studios are buying the Tomb Raider IP for $600 million from Embracer. Now, what's that got to do with Square Enix, you might ask? Well, I'm glad you asked. So basically, about 8 months ago, Square Enix sold their entire Western division, including IPs, to Embracer Group for $300 million. And at the time, on the podcast, I was saying, I think it's a ridiculous amount of money because they blatantly got ripped off. $300 million for all those IPs. Like, I even said the Tomb Raider IP is worth more than that alone. Well, today that just shows that I was, right. But why am I bringing this up? It's because Square Enix, people like to laugh at them when they mess up, which is a lot. And, the deals they make with Sony, the games they don't bring over to Xbox and all that stuff. The list goes on and on. But it's just quite funny to say that, Square Enix could have made a lot more money and they undervalued their own properties. So I do hope we're going to see some good stuff from Amazon Game Studios. They're already making the next Tomb Raider game, which is going to be using Unreal Engine 5, which we may see later this year. And they're going to do an interconnected universe with video games, movies, animated TV shows, which could be cool. The thing about me is that I know Tomb Raider. There isn't much to the lore. There's Lara Croft, there's her butler, and that's pretty much it. She goes on adventures and stuff. But hey, I wish them the best, and I just think it's hilarious. Like, Square Enix sold all of that intellectual property and studios for $300 million, and then Embracer just outright sells one IP for double that. Like, when the whole deal happened with Embracer, the CEO came out and said he believes they're going to make all that money back in 2 years. Now, at the time, I thought they're going to just pump out a bunch of remasters, which they probably will still do anyway. But it is absolutely hilarious that they've just done this. They've doubled the money, and then they're still going to make games like, they're going to make more Deus Ex games and stuff. It's great all around. Everyone's a winner except Square Enix. We're going to get future Tomb Raider games on Xbox because Amazon Game Studios is working on multiple Xbox games right now, Tomb Raider being one of them. And it's just a good day. Look, would it be petty of me to admit that I laughed? Would it be petty of me to say that I thought it was hilarious? Yeah, I don't care. It's hilarious. Square Enix got ripped off, and it's beautiful. Logan, what do you think? Because, like, I shouldn't be laughing, but the amount of times they've crapped on Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal, it just feels like a little bit of payback.
Oh, I'm joining you. I think it's hysterical. Like, at first, I was like, I remember when we first saw the deal, I'm like, Tomb Raider alone is worth way more than 300 million, like by itself. And lo and behold, they sell the IP rights by itself for twice what they paid for two whole studios, all those IP, which include, Soul Reaver, Deus Ex, Tomb Raider, Gex the Gecko, like a whole bunch of stuff, and all those talent, everything. For twice that, one IP. And it shows that I don't know what's going on with Square's finance department. Like, how do you fumble the bag that bad? Like, undervalue your own stuff. Were things so bad that you just had to make money quick to try to pay off debts or something? Or have to fund your NFT obsession? Like, I don't know. It's comical. It's laughable. I would say the sale did not meet expectations. And, yeah, I just think it's funny. It does also make me a little bit even more sad that Xbox couldn't just swipe in there and get it themselves. But, the omnipresent Activision deal, ties everything until that thing is done. So it cost them that, basically. But I don't know. I think it is funny.
Yeah, I mean, like Embracer, they still have a ton of like intellectual properties that people are going to love. Like, I honestly think in the next 3 years we are going to see a bunch of like remasters and new titles from Crystal, obviously with Tomb Raider, although that partnership's kind of done. But they're still going to be making games with Embracer and Eidos Montreal and all that stuff. Deus Ex is an IP that is absolutely amazing, and the problem is that Square Enix just didn't know what to do with it at all. And every time they were coming out with a game, like the marketing was messed up. Like, I'm not going to talk about it here, but if you go back to Mankind Divided's marketing cycle, they came out with some like questionable things. But it actually has a chance now as an IP, and that's good news. So while I might be laughing at Square Enix losing out on $300 million, for one IP, it serves them right. They invested in NFTs. Nobody, like, the NFT market crashed. Nobody cares. Nobody talks about crypto anymore because it's boring and people have lost out. Like, there's no money to be had in that. And today they were celebrating its, Final Fantasy VII Day. I always seem to bring up Final Fantasy, by the way, when I talk about Square Enix in every podcast. But, like, look, right now during the podcast, there's a cutscene from Crisis Core playing. And I've talked about that game a lot. I think it's an incredible JRPG. In fact, I think it's one of the best JRPGs on Xbox right now. I'll put it like that. And, like, we got the prequel and we won't get the sequel. Like, to me, that is just crazy talk. And, we can put that onto Sony or we can put that onto Square or both. Regardless, like, it seems like it's just a weird situation that we get certain games from Square Enix, but we don't get some. We get Crisis Core, but we don't get the pixel remasters. That doesn't make any sense. The first Kingdom Hearts game that came to Xbox was number 3. Like, and by the way, Kingdom Hearts as a story isn't exactly the most coherent thing in the universe. It's a bit complicated. Even though I like Kingdom Hearts, will we get Kingdom Hearts 4? Who knows? They probably flip a coin to decide at this point. But any opportunity to laugh at Square, in my opinion, is it's a good thing, And I do hope it'll get to a point in the future where Square Enix will actually, make really good titles for all platforms again and stop making dumb choices. Because again, like, they coming out with like NFTs in 2023, nobody cares. Nobody wants that crap. But yeah, Square Enix, like, they have a long way to learn. And here's the thing, like, we used to bash as gamers EA all the time, right? EA was they were the punching bag for 5 to 10 years in the gaming industry, and if you look at them now,
Studio killer, evil empire,
like they were the worst like corporation to look at when it comes to video game development and IP and how they treat them. And now they are coming out with single player games that not only are good, are absolutely brilliant. They're giving the developers more time to make games, which we'll talk about in a bit. And if you look at their slate of games in development that's coming out in the next few years, 90% of them are single player. And they've already said that there's not going to be live service elements or microtransactions. And why did that happen? Because they learned. Square Enix, at some point, they'll make a good decision. They'll make a multi-platform single-player game, and it'll sell well on Xbox, and they'll market it, and that will be the beginning of them learning. But until they do that, they're going to be who they are already, a publisher that nobody really likes. Like, really think about it. Square Enix has these IPs that people love, but when we talk about Square Enix, it's always just people bashing them. But, things will change, I'm sure. Just give them time. I think people need to keep hounding them on Twitter. Don't bother them, but, be polite. Say you want certain games and stuff, like the Pixel remasters. Don't wait for the Game Pass bag. That's what I'm saying. Square Enix, like, I could rant about Square Enix all day. We'll move on. But anyway, Tomb Raider is now with Amazon. Okay, E3. Now, I love E3. I think as gamers, it's the best like showcase for new titles every single year. And, in 2019, Sony decided not to have a show. And, it wasn't really that... It was a big deal for, like, PlayStation fans, but as a whole, it wasn't really much of anything. And then the pandemic happened, and then we had shows from webcams and stuff. It was all a mess, and now things are slightly getting back to normal. Hopefully, forever. It turns out E3 was going to be a thing last year, and then it was pulled last minute, and then it was a digital thing, and then this year E3 is finally happening. And it turns out Microsoft, Nintendo, and Sony may not be going at all, which to me blows my mind because it's always been the showcase event of the year. And for the past 3 years, we've had game announcements spread over 4 months when we used to just get everything spread over 1 week. Like E3 would kick off on the Saturday with EA's event, then Microsoft on the Sunday, and then on the Monday you'd get Ubisoft and Sony, right? And then on Tuesday you'd get Nintendo, and throughout the week you just have a bunch of third-party stuff. And ever since the whole pandemic started, like, everything's been spread over 4 months. Like, I'd be interested in chat. Do people really enjoy that? Am I just a crazy person that I want all of my game announcements for the summer announced in 1 week, and then that's it? But spreading it out over 4 months with this Summer Games Fest where everything apparently has to be presented by Jeff Keighley, I've noticed, by the way. Like, every single gaming event now has to be presented by one person. And I don't know, it just feels like, there's some magic lost. The E3's always been special to me, and I've always wanted to go, and I do plan on going at some point. But like, it just feels like we've lost so much because we all look forward to E3, and I think gaming is missing something big, like an event like that. Like, yeah, people can talk about the Game Awards and all that stuff, but it's not the same. Like, Logan, what's your take on the situation? Because, like, I personally love E3, and I do want it to come back proper, but I don't know if it's going to happen this year.
Yeah, I'm a bit conflicted on it because on one hand, E3 has been something I've always loved. I'm like you. I prefer my gaming news like in a week spread out, kind of like, March Madness. We have the basketball tournament spread out for a certain amount of time, and it's like condensed all this basketball in a short amount of time, and then that's that. And then for like E3, it was like that kind of. It was like all these gaming announcements in this week, and it was incredible. Like you at one conference, hop over to another one, stop by a stall, pick up some cool gear, talk to some people at a restaurant, do whatever. It's like a fun event, like a holiday event for like a week. And yes, I know there's the curmudgeons that are always like, oh, it's just a glorified marketing advertisement sale, corporations aren't your friend, whatever. Get out of here. But point is, it's fun and people enjoy it. But so there's on one hand that school of thought, and then on the other hand, it's like maybe the showing of the Dev Direct Xbox just had, combined with the relatively pretty positive reception to their last showcase that they had last year, their big June one, maybe that gives them confidence to where they think, you know what, we don't have to be pigeonholed into one place. We can kind of manage it on our own cadence, our own time schedule, and do it with our own people, our own way. And so that's why maybe they feel emboldened after everybody being so very positive overall about their latest event, where this is what they're going to do going forward. I don't know. I'd be a bit sad if they quit doing E3, but again, maybe it leads to something new. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. If they just did their digital showcase and, other companies did their digital showcases in the same week, I'd be like, okay, that's a lot better. But like waiting for months in between showcases, it doesn't fit with me. I've been watching E3 since the 2000s, live, and I don't know. It just feels like we all used to look forward to June and this awesome week of game reveals, and that's just gone now. And we have an occasional showcase. Like, remember in 2020 when all of it was from home, when, Microsoft and other companies were doing these shows for the first time with webcams? Like,
it was hideous. It was awful.
Yeah, like my YouTube channel is small, and I do a bigger production value than what they did. It's like, They didn't even use mics. They used webcam mics. Webcam mics sound terrible, right? And I don't know. It's like it took them a long time to learn, and we finally at a point where things are going back to normal long term. And yeah, we're just missing E3. Yeah, I don't know. It's a bit silly in my opinion. I think I just want everything to go back to normal. But we'll move on. I just think I want E3 to come back proper, and who knows. Anyway, before I move to the next topic, if people are enjoying the show, please like, share, and subscribe. Hit that bell for notifications, all that stuff. Helps the podcast and channel out and all that stuff. So, now this is going to be a big topic because I've been playing it a lot, and there's also gameplay going on in the show at the minute. So, Dead Space, the remake. Now, every so often the game gets a lot of hype, and it comes out, and it doesn't live up to your expectations. And then sometimes a game comes out and it's pretty much what you expected. And then there's other times, which is rare, where a game comes out and it not only lives up to your expectations, it goes beyond that. I talk about Mass Effect Legendary Edition a lot because of its quality and all that stuff, but like that to me was like it set a super high bar of just quality. Now, Dead Space Remake had a lot of hype, and it had everything going against it. They're using the Frostbite engine, which is known for a lot of bad things, and they've been clear up front for the past year and a half about what's going to be in the game, what it's going to be like, what they're doing, all that stuff, all the additions. And the game finally came out, and I have to say, it's exceeded my expectations in every single way. From gameplay to visuals, all of it. It's incredible. This is what a remake should be. Now, when I talk about remakes, there's going to be different kinds. So you have Resident Evil 2 and Final Fantasy VII Remake, which are basically taking the idea of the original and making a completely new game, right? And then there's remakes where they take all the assets, make new stuff, and basically you're getting the exact same game, but it's, prettier. So you have things like Gears of War Ultimate Edition, The Last of Us Remake, and then you have, this, which is basically, it's taken the first game, all of it, expanding upon it. It even has side quests, and there's other things to do. The station, you can explore more now, and there's complete sections of the game that's way different than the original. So, for instance, I should have gameplay on in a bit during the show, but there's a segment in the original Dead Space which most people hate, and that is the asteroid defense section. Now, you think in a video game where you destroy asteroids, it would be fun. It was always monotonous, and people didn't like it. And in this game, it's actually fun, and it looks amazing. When we play these games on these next-generation consoles, we do want to see these mind-blowing things, these spectacles. This whole game is a spectacle. Like, if you have a next-generation console, you have to play this game. It is a spectacle. It is beautiful. Logan, have you played it all yet?
I haven't played the remake yet. I haven't installed Deluxe, everything. I'm intimately familiar with the franchise, one of my favorite franchises ever. Love them. Haven't played the remake yet. It's installed, ready to go. I want to give Hi-Fi Rush its due and finish it first, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, so I'll save my thoughts for it, except that it's incredible. I'm loving it. Once I finish that, I will turn my sights to the Dead Space remake. And then I will hop over to Callisto, now that they've fixed a bunch of issues with it.
Yeah, I mean, Dead Space Remake, like I was saying, it had everything going against it. But, and mainly with the Frostbite engine, because I've played so many Frostbite engine games where they are buggy, and so far I haven't had that. And there's this thing in the game called the Intensity engine where, so if you play the original Dead Space from start to finish, it's the same no matter how many times you play it, on any difficulty. But in this game, the game changes things dynamically. So, for instance, yesterday I was playing, and by the way, speaking of them adding things, so I've put over 5.5 hours into the game so far. Actually, it'll be about 6, and I'm still on chapter 4. They've added that much to it. But yeah, so basically the Intensity engine, you will play the game one way at one time, and one thing will happen. and then you could play it a week later or a month later at the exact same section, and something different will happen. So yesterday I was walking down a corridor and I realized I forgot to sell something for my inventory. Well, just before I turned around, all the lights in this hallway went dark, and enemies started bursting out of the walls. Now, I was panicking because I was like, I didn't want to lose my progress, and I didn't want to lose my items or whatever, and I thought, screw it. So I loaded my save, sold the items I needed to, and then went back into the corridor. Well, this time, only one enemy popped out, and the lights didn't, turn off. And just things like that, and it's happened multiple times. Sometimes you'll be walking down a corridor, and there'll be no enemies. And other times, you are screwed. I will say this about difficulty. A lot of people seem to be a bit confused about its difficulty. So basically, easy setting is equivalent to normal on the original. And, obviously medium on this game is a lot more harder. I will say this. I'm playing on normal, and it's a bit challenging, to say the least. Fortunately, if people do want to go through this horror experience, even if they aren't used to horror games, and enjoy the story, there is a story mode where you can take a beating. Your health actually recovers over time, which is the biggest thing, by the way, for Dead Space. The achievements, basically, there's an achievement for finishing on normal or higher, and then one for impossible mode. Impossible meaning you play it on its hardest difficulty, and then if you die, they wipe your save. So I'll say this right now, I will probably never play it on that difficulty. But yeah, it's a great game. I highly recommend it to people. When it comes to these 12-hour experiences at $70, I understand why people don't want to buy them. However, the amount of extra content that's in the game, I'd say it's worth every penny. And, I got an extra £10 off because of Microsoft Rewards, but it is possibly the best remake I've ever played. And I've played a lot of remakes. This tops every single one of them. And, visuals, they got the voice actor back for Isaac Clarke that came back and did all the new lines. And when I say there's side quests in this game, there's literally side quests. Yeah, you actually have a menu that lists all the side quests. So while you do have your main objective, you can go back and forth to other places on the ship, where you've unlocked higher security levels later on, and go to other places which weren't even in the original game. So I'm giving this game a lot of praise because we see releases all the time that are broken, buggy, they don't live up to the hype, and every so often we get a game that lives up to that. Elden Ring, that lived up to the hype. This has lived up to the hype. And again, I'm about 6 hours in, and I'm on chapter 4. That just goes to show how much added content they've added. So, for instance, in the original game, after Chapter 1, you're forced to go out back onto the main dock where the ship is. Well, in the remake, I'll try not to spoil anything, but in the remake, you literally go into 0G and go through the entire dock and explore, and there's other rooms, and there's different ways into other areas of the ship. It's truly impressive. I'd say marketing for the game didn't really show the game what it was meant to be. Some people have thought this is going to be a bare bones, low budget remake. The truth is, this is a AAA full-on game where they've just added a lot. It's probably going to be one of the best games of the year, in my opinion. And I find it hard to list a remake as, game of the year material. But so far, it is. But yeah, I highly recommend people buy it. It is incredible. Again, I'm about 6 hours in, and just the content there is ridiculous. I will say this, though. I think people that were disappointed by the Callisto Protocol will need to pick this up. Again, it's incredible. I'd be interested if anyone chat has bought the game, because so far, a lot of people on my feed, they're talking about the game. It seems to be really popular at the minute. Anyway, we'll move on. Okay, you know what? Let's get the Activision stuff out of the way, because it's my least favorite topic now. A year ago when the Activision thing was all announced, I was like, it's cool. Microsoft's going to add all these studios and new intellectual properties to the portfolio and stuff. And over time, it's just dragged on. Gamers are getting sick of it. I'm getting sick of it. And Logan, you followed this whole legal thing way better than me. So what's going on?
Basically, right before we went live, this legal wire thing came up about deal saying that, Microsoft has officially received the statement of objections from the European Union or Commission, and then they were reached out for comment, and Microsoft basically said that they didn't confirm that they had received the letter, but they did say that we are confident we can overcome whatever issues may arise, and we're working with them, and we remain determined to get this done. Yada yada yada. CYA PR type stuff. But basically, it sounds like we're finally reaching the end stages of the European part, anyway, outside of the UK, where they're wrapping this thing up. To where expect probably later this week, probably in the next couple days, for a Reuters or a Bloomberg, or Politico maybe, to get the leak of what the objections are, or something like that, where you can know for sure, like, okay, this is what the commission is saying are our quote unquote concerns or issues. And then Microsoft will be given time to respond and to deal with those. But Microsoft has been very proactive in dealing with them. And the commission, at least, they have seemed willing to discuss concessions and behavioral remedies and other things, and they're not trying to make a big stunt about things. They're doing their job. They're focusing. They're evaluating, and that they'll release their thing, agree with them or not, about what they think, and then Microsoft will have the opportunity to respond, and hopefully things wrap up before too long, and then CMA with the UK, theirs will be coming in February, I believe. So we're finally hitting towards the end game for everybody but the FTC. So good news.
So hopefully within the next few months it'll be all gone and done, because I'm like I can imagine that the people at Microsoft are like really sick of this. Like 99% of the time this is just constantly a talking point, and then you have places like IGN and GameSpot continuously asking, like, is the game still going to go to PlayStation? And it's like, it's enough, that's all we'll talk about Activision today, because honestly it's annoying at this point. Like this time last year, I literally said out loud, "This will be over in a few months." It's a year later. Like, I've had enough. Like, I just want the deal to go through. I will say this though: like, Microsoft made it abundantly clear that they want to actually put the game, Call of Duty, on PlayStation for like they will say a 10-year deal, and Sony flew over to Brussels and basically lied. And so like that's a bit weird, Although Jim Ryan has been known to lie in the past, so there's that. Yeah, but anyway, that's it for this week's Activision stuff. Thankfully, yeah. You know what? Before the show went live, a story happened where backwards compatible games are all of a sudden being delisted, and the story's been all over the place. And right before the show went live, basically, I got a message from Microsoft saying, I'm trying to think how to word this. So basically, backwards compatible games on Xbox One and Xbox Series consoles, the games aren't getting delisted anymore. There's a list of about 50 games or so where if you were to buy these games or try and play them on a 360, you can't get them on the store anymore. It turns out that's on the 360. So I'll post the link in a bit. So if you still make purchases on the 360 that aren't backwards compatible, you may want to check the list, because the games are going to get delisted from the 360 store on February 7th. Now, you'll still be able to download them, but on a 360, that's a much more complicated process to re-download games you already own. It's not the easiest thing. On Xbox One and Xbox Series X, it's a lot easier. However, yeah, if you still buy 360 games on a 360 that are, there, check the list. I'll put it out there. Anyway, we'll move on, because that was going to be a way worse topic than I imagined.
If I may add one thing.
Yeah.
I was gonna say there are a few that I would be wary about in particular. The games from Valve, like the Left 4 Dead 1, 2, and then the Orange Box and Counter Strike. For some reason, Valve games have like traditionally not been available to purchase on the Xbox One or Series X digitally. You have to get them via the 360 marketplace or on the PC. So those in particular, I would be more concerned with. I think the other ones will be just fine, like you said, but those I would personally probably pick up just because those have been kind of a pain to get DLCs for and other things. Like I have to log into my PC or log into a 360 to get content for those. For some reason, the licensing or whatever hindered them to be digitally available for purchase on the One or Series X. But the other ones shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, actually, no, it's a good thing you brought that up because so I love the orange box. I used to have it physically. That's a different story for another day. But I bought it digitally on the Xbox website, and like you're saying, you cannot buy it on Xbox One. Now that situation's a bit unclear if we can still buy it on the website. So I highly recommend if people want to play the orange box on a modern Xbox, be it Xbox One, Xbox Series consoles, get orange box just in case before February 7th because again, you can't buy them. I don't know why there's a thing in place where you can't buy these games. So yeah, check the list just to be sure. I don't know why this is happening. Like even Mass Effect 2's on the list, which makes no sense to me because yes, you will still be able to buy it on modern Xboxes, but maybe there's something with Xbox 360 licensing. I don't know. But yeah, just to be sure, maybe buy the games you want. Fortunately, some of those games have been free in the past, like Lost Odyssey. That game has literally been free, I think, like 3 times in the past. So yeah, we'll move on. Okay, so Hogwarts Legacy. That comes out a week from now if you get the digital deluxe edition, which I'm against buying digital deluxe editions because I don't see the point of skins. However, for this game, I'm going to cave. But anyway, there's a lot of hype behind this game. People are talking about this game constantly, and I'm not even going to bring up the weird reasons like people are getting hyped about it because you have this fan base of people that want to play this Harry Potter game, and they've been looking forward to it because we haven't had a game like this for years. There's people upset that there's people excited about this game, and then you have this tiny subsect of people that want to buy the game to screw over other people that don't like the situation. By the way, if I sound extremely vague today, it's because certain words are not good to be said on YouTube, if you catch my drift. Basically, there's a lot of hype behind Hogwarts Legacy, and it honestly looks like it's going to be one of the best RPGs in years. It really does. Like, more and more footage has come out about it, and there's literally hours of footage on YouTube right now. I will say this, like, it's probably going to be one of the best games of the year. Like, sometimes you can predict what's going to be a game of the year. To me, it's either going to be Starfield, Jedi Survivor, or Hogwarts Legacy. And Hogwarts Legacy looks like the game people have wanted for 20 years. Like, I played Chamber of Secrets on the original Xbox, and it was incredible. But Hogwarts, it was tiny. There was tons of loading screens. It wasn't the Magic School experience people wanted. But this game looks to be like the game people have wanted for decades. And, it's going to be a big game because it's an RPG that's in a Magic School, which we haven't really had before. Yes, you do have Fire Emblem on, Nintendo and all that stuff. But, like, it's a AAA Magic School game. You have Harry Potter fans that aren't gamers that are buying consoles just for this game. You have non-Harry Potter fans that want fantasy RPGs. So it appeals to all these different demographics. And plus, as a next-gen game, and yes, the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 version comes out in April, but like as a next-gen game, it looks like one of the best-looking games to date, in my opinion. Fortunately, there's multiple different graphics modes when it releases, so there's performance mode, 60 FPS, and your 4K visual mode. I will say this, it looks amazing in the 4K mode from what I've seen so far. And going back to the whole Dead Space thing, I've been playing Dead Space back and forth, performance mode and visual mode, and it's hard to pick because on the graphics mode it looks incredible, but 60 FPS is nice. So it's like, if you can play 30 FPS games and it doesn't bother you, maybe play these games at 30. I'm just putting it out there, even though I prefer 60. But yeah, anyway, back to Hogwarts Legacy. It's going to be a big game, and the Digital Deluxe Edition launches in a week. The achievement list just went live, and it looks like it's going to be very doable. It has your typical RPG, achievements. Defeat 10 enemies with a certain spell, learn all the abilities and all that stuff. But so far, like Hogwarts Legacy, it looks like it's going to be one of the best games of the year. Logan, I know you said you weren't going to get this day one, but what's your opinion on like the hype situation around the game? Because like everyone's talking about it.
Yeah, the screens I've been seeing today have been quite impressive. The character creator is like wild, like how detailed it is, and like the students, like Ravenclaw and Slytherin and Hufflepuff and Gryffindor, and like all the attire and the apparel and like the accessories, and just the details are quite impressive. And the school and the lore and the setting 1800s. I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be fun. It's not day one for me, but it is one I do plan to pick up, and I hope people that want to play it and were excited for it just go ahead and be happy and excited for it, and don't let some knuckleheads try to drag you down about being excited for something you're excited for. And yeah, I think it will be most likely one of those games at the end of the year that's on the short list of nominations. It should be really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, there's these groups of people that like they hating anyone purchasing the game, and to that I say it's stupid. Like, look at how mobile phones are sourced, the materials, where they made. Like, I have an iPhone. I can tell you for one thing, this iPhone I'm holding, it wasn't made with the most ethical methods of things. I'll just put it that way. And all these people complaining are tweeting from devices that are made in sweatshops. Like, so how come it's okay for one thing but not another? And I'm not saying two wrongs make a right, but why is it okay for someone to buy a phone and complain on Twitter about someone purchasing a video game, and that makes that person bad, but yet buying a mobile phone or a graphics card or a laptop or PC makes you a good person, even though it was made in a horrific way? It's stupid. It's honestly, I try not to give these people the time of day. If people follow me on Twitter, I don't talk about these groups of people or shall I say, the situation, right? I think it's a stupid situation. Hundreds of developers worked on this game, not one person. And I think it's stupid that these people are like trying to just get this game just like ruined and like ruin the situation for everyone. Anyway, we'll move on. You know what? A minute ago I said that Game of the Year for me this year will be Starfield, Hogwarts Legacy, or Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Right? Bear in mind I said my Game of the Year. Now I've noticed when I say things like this, it sets some people off. And for some reason, I get this very exact same reply by people. Starfield can't be Game of the Year. And people will always bring up, things like Spider-Man and Breath of the Wild 2. Now, I'm going to bring out this person in chat called Enigma. And this person writes, no way Starfield wins with games like these, like Breath of the Wild 2, Final Fantasy 16, and Spider-Man 2 and Hogwarts Legacy. Says who? Like, look at it. Starfield is the next pillar. It's the third pillar RPG for Bethesda Game Studios. It's going to go alongside Elder Scrolls. It's going to go alongside Fallout. Guess what? Fallout and, Skyrim, they've all been nominated for Games in the Year in the past. So how come Starfield just... Oh, by the way, Breath of the Wild 2, it's a sequel set in the same map. Putting it out there, right? It's probably going to be an amazing game, right? And Spider-Man 2, why are people calling Spider-Man 2 Game of the Year material already when we haven't seen a single frame? It's an open world game set in the exact same city. Like, why are people just giving that game a pass all of a sudden? Like, literally, think about it like this: Spider-Man 2, Insomniac, and I think they make amazing games. Insomniac are making an open world game in a city they've already made, meaning they have to put new cutscenes in, new missions, new enemies. You're getting the same New York, right? They're not remaking New York from the ground up. And like every single time I talk about Starfield, you always get these people mentioning Spider-Man and how Breath of the Wild 2, those games are going to be deserving of winning Game of the Year. But yet you mention Starfield and it's a big no-no apparently. Even though we've seen gameplay, it's a new IP, it's a new title, and it's not reusing any assets. Like, granted, you can say Zelda, that's probably going to be a very high quality title and stuff, but like, why is it Spider-Man 2, a game that we haven't seen a frame of, that people are allowed to say that'll be Game of the Year material? But me saying Starfield, a game I've seen about 20 minutes of gameplay for, I'm not allowed to say that'll be Game of the Year material. What's the deal with that? I don't get that. And by the way, I'm going to go off right now. Whenever I say a game's going to be my Game of the Year, it always sets people off. Why is that? Like, I'll never understand that. And the fact that just because a game is made by Sony or made by Nintendo, that does not default give them Game of the Year. A Game of the Year can be a third-party title. It could be an indie game. And by the way, when we talk about Game of the Year, there's more to Game of the Year than just Jeff Keighley's show, right? It's stupid. Yeah, I could go on all day, but like, Logan, have you noticed this? I know I get a lot of crap when I talk about anything on Twitter, but like, if you even remotely say that Game of the Year could be Starfield, you have people go off.
Yeah, I think I know what that's about. I think it's honestly there's still a lot of people who are up in their feelings about the fact that it's an exclusive and that doesn't make them happy. And so they go all of a sudden from we love Skyrim, we love Oblivion, we love Fallout. We're so hyped for Starfield to all of a sudden Starfield is mid or Starfield looks scaled down or oh it's No Man's Sky or Bugthesda LOL and just dumb juvenile comments that aren't warranted and make no sense and aren't accurate at all. And you know, if it's not nominated for Game of the Year, then that to me that would mean one or two things. One, something went horribly wrong in development. Like if it came out and it's an absolute just like bleep show of a game, like that I could see, knocking it out of Game of the Year category. Or if enough people are in positions of power for voting and other things to where they allow opinions about platform to cloud judgment and to influence voting process and decisions to hold it out. I think it will be a short list for Game of the Year type game. Not saying it will win, but I think it will be there, at the finish line, one of those final few games that are nominated across the board in a bunch of different categories. I have that much faith in Todd Howard's vision and how they do games, especially since they've been given extra time for polish, bug fixes, content, other things, full resources, manpower. This is what they want to do. I fully expect to be blown away by this game. And the whole thing about my game of the year, this, or your game of the year, or something, it's a personal thing at the end of the day. Like, I know people that, love certain games that I'd be like, oh my gosh, I hate that game. Like, how could you possibly like that? But you know what? That's your personal game of the year. Like, I'm glad you liked it. I like this game, and you may not like it. But hey, personal game of the year is personal to you. It's really not a big deal for somebody to say, yeah, it's my game of the year. And then someone's like, no, you're a liar, or this or this. It's like, dude, it's their game of the year. It's not like the all end all like Oscars where it's like there's only one game of the year vote, and if it doesn't get that one, it can't be called a game of the year game. It's dumb. And it ties into the whole, like, I think people have put way, 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 way too much power into the hands of things like Metacritic, things like Keeley Awards, all this stuff. It's like, like the Shadow Drop thing has proven. Like, you don't need marketing or this or this as long as you just throw it out there and you get good word of mouth and people love it and they see the quality of it and they spread it around. That, at the end of the day, proves that a good game's a good game, regardless. And it doesn't need a little stamp of approval from some bloggers group of 20 to be a quote game of the year incredible all-time game. Like, just because 20 folks, sitting at their computer didn't like it doesn't mean it's not an incredible game. But that's my thoughts at the end of the day on the whole topic.
Yeah, it's just annoying, like, I think it's weird how you have Starfield, this brand new IP, where we've seen 15 minutes of gameplay or so, right? And it looks like they've taken elements from games like, Elder Scrolls, Fallout, but also things like Mass Effect, and it looks like it combines all the elements that people are going to really like in a new IP. But these same people that will say that can't be Game of the Year material, but we can give a sequel to a Zelda game set in the same map, Game of the Year nominations already, based on no gameplay, and apparently we can give Spider-Man the same deal based on no gameplay, set in the exact same map. Like, can you imagine if Microsoft launched a open world game with a sequel set in the same map? Now, I'm not saying Spider-Man should be in a different city, I'm not saying that, but like, every time there's a game released with the same map in an open world, I'm looking at you, Saints Row 4, it's been took down a few points, and people say, oh, it's using the same map. Well, people are going to get sick of swinging around the same New York they have for the past 500,000 hours. But I just think it's stupid that we can't say a Microsoft game can't be given it, because we're going to talk about Hi-Fi Rush in a minute, where people are already considering this Game of the Year, and it's already one of the highest rated games of the year. Like, so there's something got to be said there. Like, I think it's okay to look past, Microsoft in the past and say, like, oh, they can have Game of the Year games. And not everything is just Jeff Keighley show, by the way. I can't stand that, by the way. Like, sorry for a bit of a rant, but, like, I think it's just so stupid. No matter what I say, there's people that complain. No matter what. Do you know, a while ago I said that my game of the year for 2021 was Guardians of the Galaxy. And people replied saying, no, Jamie, you're wrong. How the hell can I be wrong about what my opinion is on something? Like, I just don't get it. I really don't get it. Anyway, we'll move on. Microsoft, actually, before I move on, if people enjoying the show, I messed up the title to that today. That's why there's less people in, because I forgot to set a bunch of tags away. My bad. But if people enjoying the show, it really helps if you share, like all that stuff. It helps. Super Chats are live if you want anything read out, all that crap. Anyway, so Microsoft's event, Digital Showcase, was last week, last Wednesday, and the funny thing about it is that Microsoft didn't really talk about it much. They said, hey, the show's going to be on Wednesday at this time. And they said that they weren't going to be talking about Starfield. They said they're going to be talking about these 4 games, right? So they set expectations because they told us, right? Well, the day happened, and I noticed that on YouTube there was tons of adverts for the show, which I've never seen Microsoft advertise their showcases on YouTube, ever. Never noticed it. But I was getting adverts almost every single video for it. So they were advertising stuff a lot. Well, if you go to how the event happened, they said, okay, look, we're going to show 5 things today. And they showed the 4 games and then something redacted, right? Well, basically, we'll go over the whole event right now, may as well. So, Minecraft Legends, it's coming out in April. If you like kind of tower defense, RTS type stuff set in the Minecraft world, you're going to love that. Again, it releases in April. And they talked about Forza. Forza Motorsport is going to be using 4K 60 FPS ray tracing on Xbox Series X, and it's the most advanced racing game to date. It looks incredible. Like, I love Forza Horizon for its arcadiness, but there's something about firing up Forza Motorsport and just seeing the realism of it all. You know, the scratches on the bumpers from racing too close to other cars and stuff. Like, it is literally photorealistic. And that's going to be exciting. We didn't get a release date, which was a bit disappointing. But at the end of the day, it's still coming this year. It's still listed for spring, by the way. And, you know, I think that, you know, it's going to be an exciting year for Xbox, because then they start talking about, what was the other game? Am I missing a game, Logan? I'm probably forgetting a game, aren't
There was Redfall and Elder Scrolls Online,
I? Elder
and
Scrolls, right?
then Hi-Fi Rush.
Right, so they start talking about Elder Scrolls. Honestly, if people like Elder Scrolls, like in general, you can play the MMO basically single player. Like, I downloaded it last year. It's literally single player. There are a bunch of MMOs where you can play single player. I've put over 50 hours into Star Trek Online, and I haven't had to play with other people. So, yeah, if you want more Elder Scrolls, download the MMO. You can literally do most of the content by yourself. And plus, they've got some really huge bosses coming into the game and all that stuff. Anyway, then they came out with Tango. Now, Tango Gameworks, they've known for making things like, you know, Ghostwire Tokyo, the Evil Within games. So very, you know, dark tone games. And before I talk about Hi-Fi Rush, last week, before the show went live on last week's podcast, we were talking about the concept art we saw that leaks. And the concept the concept art we saw resembled nothing like the game we have, right? The concept art was basically a multiplayer 1v1 PvP game. And even I said last week on the show, I don't think a 1v1 PvP game like this would do well. Well, the Hi-Fi Rush we got looks amazing. It's a 3D third-person action rhythm game, and it's incredible. And the crazy thing about it is that it has a great soundtrack, great voice acting, great cinematics. And by the way, the engine they're using for the animation is the exact same engine for the cinematics and gameplay. It looks like a actual animation, like on TV, but it's a video game. I've never seen cel shading this good. Like, I played Wind Waker back in the day, amazing cel shading. Borderlands, great cel shading. This is a whole nother level of cel shading. It deserves an award later in the year just for art style. And basically, they announced this great game. It came out an hour after the show with no marketing. No marketing at all. Now, normally in this situation, you think, wait, a shadow drop, a new IP, either it's a tiny game or it's bad, right? Or both. You never have like a shadow drop of a big game and people love it. And it turns out it's one of the best rated games on Steam. It has almost 4,000 reviews on Steam, which are positive. And like, the interesting thing about it, actually, before I go into the numbers, Logan, what do you think of the gameplay and just the game overall?
I'm hooked. I'm absolutely loving it. It's definitely shortlisted for my game of the year. There's that phrase again, but I'm loving it. It's one of my favorite new IP of the last two generations. It's like scratches an itch I haven't had in a long time. It feels like, the Beautiful Joe, Jet Set Radio, PS2, Xbox, GameCube era. It's something about it. The creativity, the pedal to the metal, pace, the rhythm, the music, the combat, the story, the characters, the art style, the Easter eggs to other franchises, the pop culture references, just everything about it was crafted with love and care. And you could tell these people really just at the end of the day wanted to create something fun and full of life. And it's very much that way. And I'm not the biggest on rhythm games, but this one is very accessible and it feels fair. And I'm loving it. It is truly an incredible game.
Yeah, I mean, like, really think about it, they had one of their best studios announce a new game, a new IP, and released it an hour later. I've never seen anything like this, and you know, been covering games for so long and been playing games for so long, like I honestly expected this game to be either like a 1 hour game or bad, right? Just given how Shadow Drops have went in the past, but no, they smashed it right out of the park. And here's the thing, right? Its numbers is interesting more than anything. So even though it launched in Game Pass, on console and PC, and by the way, what I'm about to say, I'm not actually like hating Forspoken. I'm just going to bring up its price. So Forspoken released the day before, and its Steam numbers are interesting because it costs $70. It's a AAA game that's had about a year of marketing by a huge publisher, and the game comes out again $70. And somehow already this game with 1 hour of marketing has already not outsold the game in general, but also made more money. And it was a shadow drop. I've never seen anything like this. And this is not me hating on Forspoken. This is just to talk about how good of an hour long hype cycle did for this game. And now people are calling it Game of the Year. There's like people are doing fan art for the cat already, 808, and Peppermint already has a huge following on Twitter. But yeah, like they really smashed it out of the park. And now people are looking at this like main character, Chai, is possibly a new Xbox mascot. Like, and the game's it's got so much personality, and I still can't get over the fact that Xbox launched a new IP in January with 1 hour of marketing, and people are calling it a Game of the Year. It's rated, I don't know, it's rated high on Metacritic, I think. It's like 80 something. And then they came out with Age of Empires 2 today on console, and for a console RTS to get rated high 80s, that is damn good. So like Microsoft starting the year out really good, and then later on the show they start talking about Redfall. Now Redfall, it looks great in my opinion. It's a first-person shooter. It's set in an open world. You hunt vampires, and that comes out the 2nd of May. Now I can't wait for that game. I love open world games like this. I'm a big fan of Far Cry and all that stuff. And apparently it's Microsoft's Far Cry, and to me, that's just music to my ears. And I think that, Microsoft's going to have a good year. They're going to have a good year because they've already had a good month. Like, people are really down on Microsoft for not having a big announcement at the Game Awards. And they come out in January with announcing a new IP. Like, I don't know. And after playing it, it's just refreshing. And if people have trouble with rhythm games, you can like literally put it on easy and press the back button, and it'll give you a metronome of when to press the A button or X button. But yeah, simplistic combat, great traversal and platforming. The soundtrack is split up into 2 different soundtracks. So you have a licensed soundtrack and a soundtrack you can post on Twitter and Twitch and whatever. But yeah, Microsoft did the impossible. They put out a Game of the Year contender in January with an hour of marketing. Like, I've never seen anything like this. And like Benji Sales on Twitter does the comparisons for like sales numbers and stuff. It just goes to show that, not really a diss on Forspoken. I think it's a good thing about game prices. Game prices, they don't need to be $70. This launched at $30 in the US, Hi-Fi Rush, and people are buying it left and right on Steam. So, yeah, and by the way, the digital deluxe version of Hi-Fi Rush is $40. It's less than a AAA game, the digital deluxe version, and yeah, it's selling really well. I'm just happy to see Microsoft come out with a new IP that's third person, which people have been asking for, and it's just original. Like it's a rhythm action game that has a lot in common with things like Jet Set Radio. I don't know, like Logan, like as a new IP in January, like Microsoft, they've kind of done something impossible here, right?
Yeah, this is appear like lightning in a bottle kind of situation where you launch a secret game that people have only heard whispers about the name being trademarked, and then, oh, it might be this type of game. There's leaked artwork which ends up being nothing at all close to what this is. And then you have it ready to go, and you feel very confident in it, highly polished. You go on a whim and you launch it, shadow drop it, and then say it's available now. And like you said, most games I have played that have been shadow drop games have either been, oof, this is not so great, but we need to get it out there, and there you go, it's out. Or it's been a smaller title. This somehow transcends all that and skips it, and it is incredible quality, incredible game, and it's just available now. And apparently you see interviews with the creative lead on it, John. I don't remember his last name, but he's been talking about how behind the scenes that this game kind of spread like viral marketing in a way in the Bethesda family. Like, people were like, dude, have you seen this game? This is crazy. And they were talking, and it spread like wildfire. And then people within Bethesda and Xbox were trying it out and like getting, hey, you guys got something here. And so they, took it to the top, and they said, you know what the heck? We'll just shadow drop it. And then it turned out to be one of the best decisions Xbox has ever made. It's incredible. Like, just the sheer, boldness and audacity of it, and the fact that it actually has paid off in spades. Like, when you go all in, it can blow up in your face, or, you hit jackpot. And they hit jackpot on this one. Like, people want anime, people want merchandise, people want sequels, shows, be a mascot character in a brawler, racer, just like fan art of all kinds for these characters, just like collaborations people want. It's incredible. It is truly a massive win for Xbox, and congratulations to everybody involved in it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think people expected this. Like, people have been wanting Microsoft to be upfront for the longest time, and then they shadow drop a game, which you don't see a lot. And I'll be honest, like, when things get shadow dropped, like I was saying, like, they may not be good. For instance, I think it was 2 years ago at the Super Bowl, they announced a brand new Cloverfield film, and it was to launch that night on Netflix. I think it was called Cloverfield Paradox. Now, as a fan of sci-fi, that film is not good. Right? And the truth is behind that film is that it isn't a Cloverfield film. It was shopped out, studios didn't like it, test audiences didn't like it, and basically it was bought up by Netflix and whatever company and labeled it as Cloverfield, right? Hollywood has done this a lot. So 10 Cloverfield Lane, which most people would consider a good film, I think it's a good film, that wasn't a Cloverfield film. They just slapped the name on it because they thought it was going to do bad. And Cloverfield Paradox was one of those, movies, and when this game was announced, I was thinking, oh, it's another Cloverfield Paradox. But it's not, thankfully. I've played it, it's great. It's really great. I think it's what Microsoft needed, because people look at Microsoft and go, oh, first-person shooters and, microtransactions, even though most of their games aren't first-person shooters or microtransaction-ridden. And yeah, it's a fun game. And I think this proves that maybe they could do a sequel in the future that's, even bigger with more characters. Like you're saying, people want a show now. The animation is so good, it could be its own show. I don't know if it's Unreal Engine or if it's their in-house Tango engine, but like that game is beautiful. When it goes from...
It's Unreal.
Yeah. Just when are you saying the game's Unreal or the engine's Unreal?
Well, both.
Okay.
The game is Unreal Engine. Unreal actually retweeted some praise about the game and said it was made in their engine, so they were enjoying the hype of it as well.
Okay, well, Unreal Engine just continues to impress because, like, when you're playing a 3D game and it looks 2D, like, that's mind-blowing. Like, I've never seen cel shading that good. Again, I used to love Wind Waker, and back in the day, to me, it looked that good. But yeah, thankfully, Tango, like, they are under Microsoft now. They can do what they want. So with their next game, they're probably going to be given even more of a budget, which is great. It's wins all around, basically. So yeah, it's in Game Pass, so you can buy it for $30. And again, £10 for the £10 extra for the upgrade, and you can buy the upgrade pack individually, and it has a bunch of skins and all that stuff. But yeah, big win for Microsoft, and it's quite a cool way for Microsoft to kick off the year, in my opinion. So they have, an RTS, a critically acclaimed RTS, come to console, and a new IP, which was shadow dropped, and it's got all this love, and people love the characters. Like, every time I open Twitter, I'm seeing images of 808. People love that cat. But yeah, good to see that. But yeah, we'll move on. It's just good to see Microsoft get a win. And we're speaking of wins and stuff. We'll talk about Halo quickly, because so if people follow me, you may notice I talk about Mass Effect now and then. Like, I love that franchise, and yeah, just a little bit. And I could talk about Mass Effect all day. I know really stupid, obscure facts about that game, which I shouldn't, just because I care about the franchise so much. The truth is, I care about Halo pretty much just as much. But I never talk about Halo because there's a part of the fan base that just gets angry all the time. And it came out today that things are changing at Halo. And, I loved Halo Infinite. So basically, I'll go over the things that's changing quick. The studio and franchise is pretty much starting from scratch. That can mean anything. I don't think they're going to reboot the story. They've already gone too far with the story, in my opinion. I love the story. At least 95 people have been let go from 343. And Halo is switching to Unreal Engine in a new game mode called Tatanka. Now, Tatanka apparently is the rumoured Battle Royale mode, which we've heard about for the past year and a half. I think Jez Corden from Windows Central broke that story. But like the Unreal Engine thing, we've heard for the past year and a half. It's been rumoured and stuff. But the thing is, when Benji Sales reports something like this, it tends to be accurate. However, 343's been hiring in the past few weeks for people to work on the Slipspace engine. So I'm not entirely sure if that's accurate. I personally think Halo Infinite looks great. And it doesn't really boil down to graphics when it comes to these decisions. It all comes to how easy is it to make content. Like, look at Destiny, right? Destiny, in my opinion, is a beautiful game. However, them making the content from Division, Destiny 1, Destiny 2, it took them like hours just to get programs working. And making content was just not easy. So unless it's like that kind of issue, I can't see them moving to Unreal Engine. Because that's what 90% of this stuff always boils down to, is the ability to make content at a reasonable pace. And the way people talk about Halo Infinite and its content delivery system, are they getting enough content? Can they not get enough content out because of the issues with the engine? And another thing, apparently, is that the developers that were meant to make content for Halo Infinite has been testing other Halo games for the past year when they should have been making content for Halo Infinite, which is mind-blowing. Logan, did you see that at all? Because I know you play Halo Infinite.
Yeah, it was a really enlightening story. It came from an article from Jason Schreier for Bloomberg, and then Jez Corden from Windows Central was able to collaborate it and add some other details to add on to the story. But basically, yeah, we had heard for a while that basically 343 was kind of a cluster. Like, management, the studio, how it's been handled, behind the scenes stuff, yada yada yada. It's been a show, and not a good one. And so basically, they had a bunch of people that were working on other Halo project prototypes and Unreal, and then a bunch of them get axed during the layoffs. And then there was, I don't know, civil war might be a kind of a strong term, but there was a divide in the company between leadership and team and some others about whether they should fully commit to an Unreal Engine change or stay with Slipspace. When the Slipspace engine creator is shown the door and Bonnie leaves and other stuff, that kind of signals a strong shift. And then they have been hiring some Slipspace stuff, but to me, I think that might be more for just keeping Infinite afloat and doing stuff with Infinite. And then they are planning on doing Unreal Engine for a bunch of future stuff, starting with Tatanka, which may shift from battle royale type focused. According to Schreier's article, it sounds like it may or may not actually be battle royale anymore. It might be different now, but it sounds like there's just been a whole bunch of drama, a whole bunch of behind the scenes stuff, and lack of communication, and basically Bill and team and the layoffs wiped the slate clean and said, "Okay, Air, you are now in charge of the Halo franchise. Godspeed." And this is his vision they're rocking with now, and I wish him all the best. I love Halo. To me, is one of the iconic franchises in gaming, along with Mario and Zelda and Sonic and stuff like that. It is that important. So they really need to get it right. And he fixed Master Chief Collection. So I would just preach patience. I know the Xbox community, especially the Halo community, in particular some subsets of that community, are kind of tired of patience and are kind of, wanting pitchforks and torches and just like burn this thing to the ground and like we're mad, we're angry, just everything's awful, just like they can never get it right. Just give the new leadership a chance. They literally were just put in charge. Like, I mean, they're incredibly talented, but they can't just, snap their fingers and they fix this. They don't have an infinity gauntlet. Give them some time. And if they can't figure it out with this new leadership team after a year or two, then it's time for some discussions about 343 and some other stuff. But now that they have a leadership change and everything, at least give them a chance and see what they can do.
Yeah, it is a strange one. And when it comes to this Halo rumor, like such an engine, we've heard this rumor for like a year and a half. Like, I don't really know whether we should put weight in it. Again, I'll bring it up in a future show if there's any more evidence behind it. But like, I put it like this: when Jason Schreier, I apologize, I think that's how you say his name. I don't honestly believe everything that dude says. Like, here's the thing about January people need to know is that a lot of these websites that rely on clicks, they make the least amount of revenue in January. So you're going to see a lot of people talk about GTA leaks and controversy. And Halo happens to be in that controversy cycle. Again, I don't necessarily believe it. The thing I do believe about the whole, developers making different games or pitching different games rather than making content, that would line up with other stuff. But like, I've never heard anything from a developer from 343 that Slipspace is hard to work on. I've never once heard that. So yeah, unless there's a genuine issue, I wouldn't worry. But again, we'll talk about that in the future. And when it comes to Halo, like, I don't really talk about it a lot because, like I was saying, like a fan base. Like, I put it like this: every so often, I'll post a cutscene on Twitter of like a Halo cutscene. It could be ranging from Halo 2 anniversary to Halo 4, Halo 5. Well, like a week and a half ago, I posted the opening cutscene for Halo 5. I didn't really think anything of it. I just saw it on my PC, and I thought, I'll upload it. It's a cool cutscene. I didn't really think anything about it. And I had maybe a few hundred comments of people just going on about how like the game's bad and it's trash and all this stuff. And all I did was post the cutscene saying it was cool. Like, the Halo fan base can be very angry. Like, hell, I remember when they announced the Among Us skin for Halo, and like people lost it. They were like complaining that.
Oh, and the cookbook.
Yeah, the cookbook. It's like that company, by the way, that makes the cookbook. They make other video game cookbooks. They have nothing to do with 343 or video game developers. I think they also made an Assassin's Creed cookbook as well, which I do want to buy. but like that has nothing to do with the game developers. And I've noticed that a lot on Twitter, people just get angry, you know. But I think people need to calm down. You know, I just think it would be better if Microsoft they have someone up front on camera just talking about the situation, because we've seen it in the past. It worked for Cyberpunk, by the way. You know, they had one of the higher ups at CD Projekt Red talk about what they're gonna do, how they're gonna fix it, and look at Cyberpunk now. It went from a joke of a game that people bashed to now a game people love. People love Cyberpunk 2077 now. Now, I've only been playing since the next gen upgrade and all the fixes and that, and they have a truly special RPG there. 343 and Microsoft can do that with Halo. And I do see a lot of videos in my feed saying, "Is Halo done?" ? Like, it's not done. I just think it's a bit of an overreaction, but I shouldn't be surprised by overreactions in the gaming community. Anyway, we'll move on. You know, about an hour and a half into the show. Again, if people enjoying the show, please like, share, and subscribe. Hit that bell for notifications, all that stuff. Super chats are live. You know, I've just been checking Twitter, and it turns out that Age of Empires 2 on Xbox also supports cloud, which is pretty cool, but also supports touch, which I'm actually shocked. So they've actually added touch controls to an RTS on Xbox, which is pretty cool in my opinion. Yeah. So anyway, let's move on. New IP. Now, Microsoft just dropped a new IP in the game show with, you know, Hi-Fi Rush. Well, it turns out Undead Labs is also making a new IP, and also Double Fine is working on a AAA game because they've been hiring for AAA development. But it looks like Microsoft's ramping things up, because when they bought those other studios, Microsoft said they want to get one AAA game, one, you know, big game out every quarter. And people are looking at thinking, is that really possible? But if you look at all the studios they have now, a lot of those studios making multiple games, it kind of looks like it's pretty possible. Like Tango Gameworks, they making multiple games. You know, Ninja Theory, multiple games. The Coalition, multiple games. And, you know, one of Coalition's games is meant to be like a smaller title as well. Well, High on Life is classed as a quote-unquote smaller title. So, to me, it looks fairly realistic. And I like the idea of Microsoft getting out, you know, a AAA game now and then a smaller game. And you know what? I would call Hi-Fi Rush a AAA game, in my opinion. Just the way it looks, the way it performs. It's 4K 60, it's an action game. Great voice acting. The animation's top tier. But yeah, Logan, I know you told me about the whole Undead Labs thing, but it really looks like Microsoft Game Studios is like really ramping up.
Yeah, it plays into that whole preaching patience thing. I mean, patience is hard to come by these days, especially in the Xbox community, but, you know, finally we're seeing the fruits of their labor starting to pay off, and these studios are cranking out games, and things are in development and will be revealed soon, and are coming soon, a bunch of them, and can't wait. Like, I'm curious what the Undead Labs second IP is going to be. I don't know much about it. I'll have to go back and listen to the podcast with Jeff Grubb and Jez and Rand and some stuff about that when they first brought it up. But don't know if it's another zombie game or if it's something else entirely. Would think, you know, given their expertise and that they're Undead Labs, it would probably be a zombie game, maybe a more narrative focused game. Just as a guess, maybe more of a Last of Us type or a Dead Rising type game, less, you know, survival, you know, focused type. Even though they're putting more story focus into a State of Decay 3. That would be my personal guess. That's not based on any given information. Just my personal hunch is that it would be kind of a zombie game that is a different category and more of a traditional, like, zombie apocalypse campaign type game. Would be my guess. And then for Double Fine, I've always wanted them to do a Banjo-Conquer game. And then they've always been flatly like, we have no interest in Rare's catalog. We want to do our own thing. So I'm curious what they do, but I've never played a Double Fine game that I didn't enjoy, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, if they hypothetically came out with like another Psychonauts sized game, I'd be perfectly happy because that was almost my game of the year when that came out. Like, incredible game, one of the best third person, I should say, 3D platformers I've ever played. Um, but yeah, it's like seeing Microsoft ramp up in that. I think it looks fairly realistic that they could come out with a new release every 3 months. Grounded, that was a small release. Pentiment, that was a small release. Obsidian, they are. I think Obsidian and Tango GameWorks are probably going to go down as some of the best purchases for Xbox Game Studios. But yeah, and plus we also have things like Compulsion Games. They are apparently making a third-person action game or action adventure game. So yeah,
Project Midnight, yep.
yeah, Project Midnight. It's like, and then they also have the partnered titles as well. So they're working with Certain Affinity on some stuff. One thing being Halo related. They're also working with IO Interactive on Project Dragon, and the list just goes on. Contraband by Avalanche Studios. Like, we haven't seen that in a while. So like, realistically, with the partner titles and the exclusives made by like internal studios, I could see them getting out possibly 4 or 5 exclusives out a year. And it's not that too unrealistic considering, like, Obsidian alone, they make like 4 or 5 games at a time. It's something stupid. And they're all good. Like, so yeah, I think it's going to be an exciting year for Xbox because, again, we are ending January and they've already came out with 2 games. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a good year for Microsoft. And honestly, I think it's going to be a good year for games. Like, yes, Star Wars Jedi Survivor just got delayed to April, which stings, by the way. But outside of that, it's been a good month so far for game news. Although I just saw that Apex on mobile got cancelled, which, depending on the install base, who cares? Battlefield Mobile got cancelled, which is sad to see because that was basically a Battlefield 3 remaster, which we need on console, by the way. But yeah, Logan, is there anything else you're looking forward to this year, either by Microsoft or otherwise?
Starfield, Redfall, the Alone in the Dark remake, there's an Resident Evil 4 remake, Silent Hill 2 remake. There's a bunch of things I'm looking forward to coming out in this year or next year. And then, it wouldn't shock me if maybe we hear something about Hellblade 2 before too long, maybe at the next Xbox event. Or, and then, Avowed is still in the background somewhere. Like, it's been a while since we've heard a peep from them. So, there's a lot of good stuff coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, and you mentioned Hellblade 2. So, we get game rumors all the time. We kind of have to talk about them on the show. Some bad, some good, whatever. But one of them being release dates. There's been this consistent rumor for the past 6 months that Starfield would be releasing in the first half of 2023. And the recent rumors suggest that it's going to be coming out in June. Now, I kind of believe it. One thing, Jeff Grubb came out with it and said like it's coming out in June. I originally thought it was going to be an April title, but given the fact that they want to get Redfall out first, I think June would be a good release date. Plus, you have things like RoboCop is coming out then, and also Diablo 4. Diablo 4. That's also coming out in June. So it's probably going to be a huge month for video games in the summer. I just hope developers stop looking at the year and thinking, right, we need to release everything in either the beginning of the year or the end of the year. Like, there's a middle part as well. Like, every single year, we get, like, tons of games. Like, I put it like this. Last week, I put out a video of 20 biggest games coming to Xbox this year, right? And the original list was 57 games. None of them were indie titles. And most of those titles are launching in the next 3 months. So, like, I just want developers to spread games out a bit. And, Starfield being June, that would be pretty good, in my opinion. And the other rumor is that Hellblade's dropping late this year. Now, I think that's 1,000% true, and here's why. So, Hellblade was announced with the Xbox Series X in December 2019. Yeah, 2019. Then in 2021, we got gameplay. We got 5 minutes of it. We've had some dev diary stuff as well. Ninja Theory could not operate from their office in 2020, in the first part of 2021 as well, due to the pandemic, because, all of our offices were shut. And they've been open again for the past year and a half. So that would kind of suggest to me that it's probably getting close to the time that they release it. And yeah, I do honestly believe that we will see Hellblade launch possibly in the last 3 months of this year. Logan, what do you think of that? Because that's going around at the minute. Plus, again, they revealed the game in 2019.
Yeah, my personal hunch is we get Hellblade 2 in the um, late October to early December sweet spot. That's kind of my hunch, but that's not based on any info or anything. Just timelines and the fact that it when it was revealed with the Series X at the Game Awards way back when, and that they were making progress, and then the pandemic happened, and they literally legally weren't allowed to do a significant important part of their game, which is the mocap and stuff, because they're so focused on that. So they had to do a bunch of other stuff in regards to game development, and that stuff's pretty intensive. So, but if they already had the other stuff taken care of, maybe they can still get this out by this year. Like I think it does come before the end of the year this year. Hellblade 2.
Yeah, I mean, they've been posting more like motion capture stuff in like literally 2020, and I think it was the first 3 or 4 months of 2021. Like no office was open. The only places in the UK that were open were supermarkets and takeaways. That was it. So like a bulk of the work had to be done from home, and motion captures. Well, if there's a game anyone's looking forward to, and there's a studio in the UK making that game, chances are they got no motion capture done in 2020 and 2021. But yeah, with all the delays and stuff, internally, I think that this will be the year. It's been long enough, and plus, I think if they coming out with Starfield in the summer and ending the year with Hellblade 2, like it's going to be a bloody big year for Microsoft. So if all those games actually happen, that means they'll have opened up January with Hi-Fi Rush and Age of Empires. They're also coming out with Minecraft Legends in April. May 2nd, we're getting Redfall. And then June, we could be seeing Starfield. So that's 5 games right there. Then later in the year, we're going to be seeing Forza Motorsport, Hellblade, and potentially another game, a smaller game by the Coalition. So by the end of this year, Microsoft will have released possibly 7 titles first party, and that doesn't include Ghostwire Tokyo, which, obviously it was a PlayStation game, but, it's a Tango game. But yeah, this year could end up having Microsoft could release 7 games by the end of the year, which is crazy to think about if you think about it, because, like, if you look at last year, they didn't actually release much. They released Pentiment. Did they release anything else last year? Or can I not remember?
Last year there was Pentiment, there was High on Life, there was a few other partner titles, and that was pretty much it. And because they had that year earmarked for, Starfield and Redfall and a bunch of stuff which got delayed to this year. So, at the end of the day, 2022, it is what it is, but 2023 could be like maybe their best year ever in terms of gaming quality and everything. And especially if they get that stupid deal done, then maybe they could flood Game Pass with even more content and just make this a ludicrous year. So, I'm stoked, and keep an eye out on Ghostwire Tokyo. I think it will be a good surprise to a lot of Xbox people who haven't gotten to play it yet. And it's different and it's quirky, but I would have a hunch that they'll probably add some content to it, like they did for Deathloop when it finally made its way to Xbox. You know, they had the expanded ending and some other stuff. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if there's some extra content or features for the Xbox version of Ghostwire when it comes out, in presumably March or April. So, I'm personally really looking forward to that release, and especially after all the good vibes from Hi-Fi Rush, I bet Tango gets a lot more attention going forward.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good year for everyone. But like Microsoft, they're gonna have a strong year, and Ghostwire Tokyo, that's probably releasing on Xbox the last week of March. So there's a lot of titles coming this year. And like, look, we can all look back at 2022 and say like Microsoft, they did not put out a lot. They put out Pentiment, and people love Pentiment, but like they didn't put out any really big games outside of partner titles. High on Life, I love that game, but that's Squanch Games, and the future of that studio is a bit unknown. By the way, while we're on us, I think regardless of the situation that's happening in real life, I honestly think that Squanch Games would be a very good studio for Microsoft to partner with or do something with, because I've played their past two games on Xbox now. I also played their VR game on my mate's PlayStation. They make genuine good games, one after another. Maybe that's just me, but yeah, I think it'd be a good studio to work with. But yeah, I think it's going to be a good year for Microsoft, and I can't remember who said in chat. Oh yeah, so someone in chat said that I feel like with all these games this year, 2024 could be very empty. That's Theresa. Here's the thing, right? So I have this huge list of games and potential release dates on my phone, and I was saying before, there's 57 games, not including indie titles, that are coming to Xbox this year, right? Things like RoboCop, the June game, it's coming to Xbox. Next to no titles I've got listed are coming out next year. I honestly think, unless we see some major stuff announced during the summer showcases, I think 2024 outside of first party games is going to be pretty bland. Like, Logan, if I
Stalker for next year or late this year, I couldn't remember.
Oh, well, that's this year. Like, if I would ask you right now, Logan, can you name any big third party game that releases next year?
Oh boy. Third party? Let's see. Not off the top of my head, no. Rumored stuff, but nothing announced. And basically, it's 2023 or way out.
Yeah, like when I saw this list of games, I was noticing that there's next to nothing announced for next year. Now, obviously, it could get to the summer and we'll see a bunch of stuff announced by, Warner Brothers. Like the Wonder Woman game is potentially next year. But outside of Wonder Woman, I can't think of any major third-party releases coming next year. Which is kind of like a bit concerning, because we always talk about, big games releasing, and granted, it is only January. And I could be overthinking it because I've had next to no sleep. But when I look at this list of 57 games that are coming to Xbox this year, that are new titles and not ports, it makes me think, like, shouldn't we know some games for next year already? I could be reading too much into it. But, yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting year. But I keep saying 57 games without indie titles. Like, this year, for gaming in general, is probably going to be the best year for gaming since 2010 and 2007. Like, there's so many good games. Like, the top 20 list I put out last week, excuse me, was almost a top 50 list. But however, that video would have been about 4 hours long. But yeah, exciting year for games. It really is. Regardless of platform, this is an Xbox podcast, but like, all these games that I'm looking forward to, mainly third-party games like, Hogwarts Legacy and stuff, like, they're coming to the PlayStation as well. Hogwarts Legacy is going to be on Switch in June. I don't know how they're going to put that thing on a Switch,
Yeah, that's impressive engineering to get that thing to run on that.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I think Hogwarts Legacy that's going to be one of the best looking games of the year, but and maybe the streamers, I don't know. That's a story that another podcast has to get into. But yeah, it's January. The year's looking exciting. Oh, well, I'm just looking at the time right now. It's now February in the UK. Hogwarts Legacy releases in 1 week. It's just exciting time to be a gamer, and the year is going to be amazing. But yeah, Logan, have you got anything else to say before we close out the show?
No, just I had forgotten to mention Jedi Survive Fallen Order. Like I am so stoked for Survivor, and I can't wait. And that's definitely on my list of big games for the year. That I can't believe it slipped my mind earlier, but that one absolutely. 6 weeks delay doesn't bother me. Can't wait for that one.
Yeah, I mean it's a short delay. Like, granted, I do look at the release date and think that's 6 weeks earlier. I could have been playing it though. like, but given how good the last game was, I think people shouldn't worry. And plus, it's a good sign that EA is giving their studios more time, because we've heard in the past that they're going to rush games out, and now they're doing the opposite. They're giving the studios more time, and they're letting developers make what they want. Like Mass Effect and Dragon Age aren't going to have live service content now. So yeah, good stuff for EA. And honestly, just good year all around coming. I'm just excited for games, you know. Um, I will say this: people that are excited about Hogwarts Legacy, and I'm wanting to know about you, Logan, as well. Do you think that paying £10 more for a game, or $10, is worth it for 3 days early access for a single player title?
It depends on the game to me, personally. Like, if it's a game that is for a franchise I just truly love, and I gotta have it now, and it's like I've been waiting years upon years for this, then yeah, it'd be worth it to me. Or if it's like I'm a content creator and time is money, and you want to get content out there as soon as possible, then I could see it being worth that. Or if it's like some true event game, like once in a generation type title that we've never seen before, yeah, I could see it. Like $10 isn't too big of a deal for a few titles. It like that.
Yeah, I'm mainly asking just because I'm going to buy the game after the show, and I just think, oh, it's only £10. Plus, again, like you're saying, that's content. I'm going to be making content around Hogwarts Legacy anyway, so what the hell am I talking about? I'm buying it. But yeah, that releases next week. But yeah, exciting time. Anyway, that's it for today's show. Everyone in chat's been awesome. Again, I messed up the tags, so I had to type during the show. That's why the views are down more than normal. Anyway, everyone in chat's been awesome. And this is the first week that I think we've ever had no bots. No porn bots whatsoever.
Zah.
I know, like I'm actually genuinely shocked. Every single week, without fail, and it gets like 30 minutes in or to an hour, porn bots. I'm sick of dealing with porn bots. But none this week, and everyone in chat's been awesome. But yeah, depending on what's happening next week, we may or may not have a show. I'm still trying to get my schedule sorted, and it absolutely has nothing to do with Hogwarts Legacy. Put it out there. But yeah, it's a weird convenience that we may or may not have a show. But anyway, I'll post on Twitter about that. Actually, before I go, I'm going to give everyone a tip. So Microsoft added a brand new punch card to the Xbox rewards app on console, and I figured out a super easy way of getting it. So it's called excuse me a moment, I'm trying to find it because I can't type apparently. So if you go to the rewards app on Xbox, and it should be the same in the US as well, there's a new punch card called Xbox Game Pass Dynamic Duos. And basically, you can get 500 reward points, which is pretty cool. Well, I discovered a quick way of doing it, and I've posted it on Twitter. So there's a list of 10 games, and you need an achievement. Also, remember to click the punch card first. So if you download Unraveled 2, you can change what your character looks like on the main menu. and that unlocks an achievement. So once you download the game, you can get the achievement within about 5 seconds, and then you've got yourself 500 Microsoft reward points. So, yeah, highly recommend people do that. And also another tip, this week's 250 Microsoft point reward Game Pass quest is for finishing 10 matches on Injustice 2. Now, when I saw this, I was thinking, that can't be multiplayer, can it? Because I'm crap at multiplayer on that game. You can play single player, set the match to easy, and just do 10 matches, and you've got yourself 250 points. So that's some tips right there for people. Again, everyone in chat's been awesome. Yeah, we'll be back maybe next week. I'll let everyone know on Twitter. Anyway, we're out. Peace.